Hey everyone, it's Nikolai. So today we are going to talk about the pen tool. Um, and a lot of people, beginners especially, are really intimidated. There's a lot to think about at the same time. There's a lot of hand coordination with pointing and clicking and dragging and figuring out how those direction points and handles work. So today I'm going to show you two different methods of working with the pen tool. One is the sort of precise method, the way that the pen tool is supposed to be used, and the other is something that is a little more quick and dirty, and I think will help make it more accessible to you if you're just starting out. All right, let's get going. You can see here that I have created um, a file that has two layers. One layer has two artboards, both with an identical image of this Panama hat. I've locked that layer down. I'm going to be drawing in layer 2. So to start out, I'm going to just go ahead and zoom in over here to my left side. Something that I have noticed with a lot of my students, people who especially work on laptops, tend to sit back and kind of work at a distance, and I'm always having to remind people to just zoom in nice and close. You want to always get nice and close to your artwork. I'm starting at this distance, but probably a little bit later on I'll be zooming in even closer. So I'm going to start off with the what I call the quick and dirty sort of method. And to do this, I'm going to grab our pen tool just by hitting P on the keyboard. You can also click on the pen tool if you want to do that. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry too much about corner points. I'm not going to worry about being precise. I'm going to just quickly click and move my pen tool and click and move my pen tool and click. So I'm clicking once each time I'm doing this, and you can see that what I'm doing is basically finding a place where there is a sort of a logical corner point, a place where you might want to have a curved line. So I've come all the way back around here, and you can see I'm not worrying about making a lot of details. I'm just loosely getting it down there, and I bring my pen back to the beginning of the shape. You see that little circle icon at the bottom of the pen tool means you're making a closed shape. I don't like having that white fill, so while I've got that white fill selected, I'm going to just hit slash on my keyboard, the one right beneath the question mark, and that eliminates the fill. That also works if you're on the stroke. If you have the stroke selected, you can hit slash and it'll get rid of that stroke. It'll make it a 0 stroke. The other thing I'm going to do is select a new color for this stroke. And usually when I'm doing this, I like to pick a really bright color, something that doesn't exist in the image itself. So in this case, I'm choosing a 100% magenta. It's kind of my go-to for this sort of thing. So we've got the basic shape of the crown of the hat. I'm going to go ahead now and make the hat band. And to do that, I'm going to zoom in a bit more. And again, grabbing the pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and click once here, click once down here. And when you're thinking about where you're placing curves and where you're putting your anchor points, generally the anchor points go sort of at the base of a curve, or the place where the curve is farthest out. I guess the apex might be the word that I'm looking for. I'm going to actually make a couple of corner points here, and then click here where there might be a curve, and then click way up here and put one corner point in between these two. Zoom out just a tiny bit. I can hit Command and minus on the keyboard. And if I hit space bar, I can then grab that artboard and just move it over, pan how I want to pan. All right, so grabbing my pen tool again. I'm thinking if you use the ellipse or the shape tools in Illustrator, this is kind of an elongated oval shape, and those oval shapes often will have 4 anchor points. So I'm thinking about it in terms of like a circle or an ellipse, an oval, and I'm going to drop down 4 anchor points at sort of, again, the apex of each section where that might be. And you can see I'm not really, I'm going for sort of minimal amount of anchor points. I might have to add some later on, But at the moment, I'm going to try to do this with as few anchor points as I can. Okay, so let's start with the biggest shape. Let's start with this brim shape. And to do that, we're going to use the Convert Anchor Point tool. Now up here, if you've got the control bar up, which you should, if you don't, you go to Window and click on Window all the way at the top, and then go down and make sure Control is checked. This is something that I can't encourage strongly enough to always have that control bar checked. So up in the control bar, if you have the pen tool selected, you will usually see this Convert Anchor Point tool, where you can convert a corner point into a smooth point or vice versa. So I'm going to use this. The other thing you could do is go to your pen tool, click, hold down that mouse key, and go down here to the Anchor Point tool, or hit Shift-C as it says here. But I'm going to actually use this Convert Anchor Point tool because I like it. So grab my Direct Select button, make sure I have this guy selected, and just click on this one that says it's going to make it into a smooth point. And there we go. Do the same thing here, make it into a smooth point. Same thing here, make it into a smooth point, and once more make this into a smooth point. So at this point, I can go ahead and grab these anchor points and start dragging them around. And I can see, you know, at first I'm just going to drag a little bit and see how I can shift them. It looks like I'm going to have to pull on these handles a bit, so I'm going to grab this handle here at the top, pull that way out, grab this one here. Again, I'm grabbing these handles. I'm clicking on the handles with my mouse, my cursor, and just pulling these out. Pull this one out, and you can pull them out and adjust them. And if you get close to where you want it to be, like right now I'm, you know, fairly close, you can then start actually putting your mouse on the line itself and clicking on that line and dragging it around. So you see I'm grabbing this. Let me zoom in here really tightly so I can click and grab that line right there and just pull that out. And I'm going to move this anchor point in a bit. And again, depending on how nitpicky and how precise you want to be, you can, you know, spend a lot of time doing this. But again, for loose shapes, for shapes where maybe you don't have to be super precise, this is a pretty great method. Again, I'm just sort of adjusting these handles. The other thing you can do, and again, this is getting into the more precise version of the pen tool, is if you hold down your Option key, or Alt if you're on a PC, you see that little plus sign, then you can grab just one side of the handle there. So you can grab just one side of the handle to move it around. I'm going to call this good for the moment and zoom out. Oh, actually, no, I think I want to fix this back here. So let's see what we want to do. I think I want to pull this one out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and go into this crown section. And there's a few things going on here. Areas where there are really small or subtle curves, there are a couple of different things we can do. I'm going to start with this curve right here because it's got the longest sort of curve. A couple of these have longer curves, but this one I'm going to go ahead and do what I did before. Use this Convert tool, click on that, convert it, and switch back over to my Direct Select tool. That time I just hit A on the keyboard to make that swap. And let's see what happens if I do a couple of these at once. I'm going to hold down Shift and go ahead and grab two. Hold down Shift, click on one, click on the other, and then convert both of them at the same time. And that's working fairly well. So let's do that again. Hold down Shift, grab both of those, click those. It's getting to be a little more curvy than I want it to be here. So I'm going to hit Command Z, and here I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to go ahead and grab this little corner rounding target and click, hold down that little target and pull. And that sort of gives me a nice little subtle curve there. That's a little bit nicer for both of these curves, the ones I had selected. Now once again, I can go in here and adjust specifically where this line falls. I can grab the handles, move them around a bit. Okay, that's actually fairly tight. So here, I'm going to grab the bottom one. And this is a big, big long curve, so I definitely want to use not the little target mover corner maker tool, but actually use the conversion tool. So this time I'm actually going to go to the pen tool. I'm going to click and hold that down, grab the anchor point tool, because if I do that, I can click, hold down the mouse key, and drag, and make that shape do whatever I want it to do in this sense. And because I know that I'm going to have that hat band will be on top, it'll be on a upper layer, I'm not worrying about making this connect up exactly. Remember, in Illustrator, we're always stacking shapes, right? As you get better, you'll become more and more comfortable with having shapes that kind of butt up against each other, and there are a lot of tools to help you cut shapes out of other shapes. But for now, we're just thinking about this in terms of stacking. The bottommost layer of this drawing, when I finalize it, is going to be the brim, and then we'll have the crown, and then we'll have the hat band on top of that. So you always want to be mindful of that. All right, speaking of that hat band, let's go ahead and get going with that. I'm going to use the same tool, the anchor point tool, and click on this bottom anchor point and pull. Again, see, I'm pulling to the right. If I pull to the left, I'd get this kind of thing happening. So if you see a loop like this happening, you just go ahead and keep holding down that mouse key, drag it around until you correct that curve, and then get it to where you want it to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and get it pretty close, and then I might have to make a little bit of adjustment later on. And I've got the upper part of this curve, so I'm going to select this guy and do the same thing. Use this anchor point tool, click, hold, and drag. You can see there's that loop. Okay, whoops, don't want to do that. I'm going to click and drag this around. And because this is going to be on top, I do want to be fairly precise with this curve and how it matches up to that black headband. So I'm kind of looking at it. Okay, that's pretty close. I'll have to do a little bit of adjusting here and there. I think this one's going to want to be adjusted as well. And now you can see that I'm going to definitely want to get in closer to these to make sure I can adjust them properly. So I'm going to zoom in over to the right side of the hat here and fix this up. Alright, so I'm grabbing the line in this case. I'm moving that line around. And I see I've got a little anchor handle that I can use here to manipulate that line. And here I'm going to drag this anchor point down a bit. Yeah, again, as I said before, I think it's really key to not be afraid to zoom in there really nice and tight so you can really see what you're doing. Okay, that's looking fairly good. And I'm going to zoom over to the other side now. I may have knocked things out of whack. I did. So this time I'm going to, again, hold down my Option key or Alt if you're on a PC. Click and hold on that anchor handle right there and drag that until it matches where I want it to match. All right, there we have it. A pretty good, again, you know, I could spend a little more time with this. So I think, again, if you're new to the pen tool, this is a really nice way to think about making, you know, fairly simple shapes. Shapes that you know, have some curves to them, maybe combinations of curves and straight points. You can see that there is definitely some fixing up that needs to get done, but I think that some people find it a lot easier to just drop those anchor points down and then go back in and kind of massage them rather than trying to get it absolutely perfect, you know, every anchor point that you're laying down. Okay, so that is part one of this video, and you can see I'm going to go ahead and buff these lines up a little bit. Just select those and knock my stroke up, so to speak, to there. Okay, so that's my basic outline of the hat. To colorize this, I would use a lot of other tools, and that's something for another video. So the next thing I'm going to do now is show you how I would do this. Again, for somebody who maybe has a little more experience with the pen tool, or if you want to learn what is called the, let's say, quote-unquote right way to do it.